Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lygia. It's my privilege to give this talk, Author of Your Own Happiness. Happiness is defined as that deep state of contentment. So now for the next 45 minutes, thereabout, we're going to explore this subject, and I particularly like the psychology, scientific, spiritual perspective on it. So, first of all, ask yourself, what is happiness? Ask yourself, what makes you happy? What would you like from this talk? Do you think we should strive to be happy? What do you think we should strive to be happy? Or do you think some are lucky, some are not? Happiness comes by itself. So these are the questions that we're going to explore this afternoon. So I'd like to start off by telling you the story of the happy rats. Famous research done in America. And what they did is they got two groups of rats and separated them. In one group, they gave this group everything: toys, lovely food, plenty of space. They took them out of their cages every day, petted them, gave them names, gave them a lot of love. And these happy rats became so tame, so friendly, hence the name Happy Rats. The second group were given adequate space, adequate food, adequate temperature. They were not mistreated in any way at all, but otherwise they were not stimulated, they were left alone. After a few months of this treatment, the scientists injected both groups of rats with very lethal doses of all kinds of deadly diseases, and cholera, typhoid, diphtheria, all these kinds of horrible things. And then without giving them any treatment, any medication, they carried on the treatment, which was the happy rats were given a lot of love and food and space and so on, and the others were left alone. Well, within a short space of time, the unhappy rats, who by now had become very aggressive and angry, were fighting all the time, they actually succumbed and died from these diseases. And the happy rats were able to overcome all these diseases they'd been injected with and made a full recovery. Their immune systems were so strong that they were able to overcome deadly diseases without any additional medication. So you see, happiness is something that we should definitely strive for, because it makes our immune systems extremely strong, and that strength contributes to our good health. So yes, strive for happiness. It makes you well, it makes you strong. There was a murderer. He was just about to be executed, and the priest had come to give him the last rites. And the priest said, "My son, why did you do this terrible thing? Now you have to give up your life. Why did you do it?" And the murderer, young man, he said, "I wanted what they had. They had everything I didn't have. I wanted to be happy." So you see, we are willing, many of us, to kill in order to be happy. Actually, if you look around you, the clothes you wear, the food you eat, the way you arrange your home, it's in order to be happy. The way you spend your time, what you do when you wake up in the morning, everything we do, we hope it'll make us happy. So it's intrinsic. The pursuit of happiness is intrinsic to the way we think, the way we live. Interesting, isn't it? So very famous research carried out by an English professor of psychology, Michael Eisen, who was head of psychology at Royal Holloway College in London. He was commissioned by the American government to do research, scientific research on what made people happy. And the thinking was that if the American government knew exactly what made people happy, they could embed that research findings into their laws, into legislation. They could prevent family breakdown. They could stop child abuse, alcoholism, drug addiction. They could prevent all kinds of societal problems. The Senate gave him the money, and Eisen conducted international research using his contacts with universities across the world and the students there to help him. And with this help, he sat down and he asked himself, first of all, well, what makes me happy? I'm an ordinary kind of person. And he thought, yes, that's a good question to ask. So he interviewed hundreds of thousands of people with a very simple question: what would make you happy? And guess what? The number one answer was. The number one answer, when I ask this question, it's quite often easily guessed. The number one answer was, people replied, if I had money, I would be happy. So Isaac thought, yes, that's a very reasonable answer. And so what he did is he sent his interviewers to one place in America around Washington, D.C., where there were more millionaires per square mile than anywhere else in the world. And he interviewed these millionaires and he said to them, you know, you've got wealth, you've got power, you have possessions, you have an easy life, lots of servants, you can do whatever you like, doors open by themselves, you must have so many friends, and you must be extremely happy. Are you happy? And Isaac was surprised when most millionaires said, you know, when you have a lot of money, you have a lot of problems. You're afraid of your children being kidnapped, yourself being kidnapped. You don't trust anybody. You don't have any real friends. You don't have time to enjoy your possessions. And you have fear all the time of losing your wealth, and you just work all the time to maintain it. So Isaac came to the conclusion that actually having a lot of wealth made you very unhappy. And he was, you know, very surprised, and yet, yes, thought, yes, this is understandable. So what do you think? What do you think? The second most popular answer to the question, what gives you happiness? What do you think it was? What do you think hundreds of thousands of people said in response to that question? The number one answer, the number two answer rather, was that people wanted to be beautiful. So Isaac thought, right, off he went, sent his interviewers to Hollywood, and that he interviewed thousands of beautiful men and women. And he said, you know, with beauty, you must have a very happy life. Doors open by themselves, you're always in demand, you don't have to work terribly hard and develop your social skills. You can marry someone you want. You're very much in demand in terms of marriage material, and life must be so easy with your beauty and your attractiveness. Are you happy? So the beautiful people said, you know, when you're very beautiful, you have to work very hard, and you have a lot of fear of each wrinkle, each ounce, when you're not out shopping for makeup and food and watching every mouthful. Then you're in the gym. You're always looking behind you for the latest, youngest models that would love to take your place. And you never know that the person you're married to wants you just for your face and body or for yourself. So being very beautiful, people have a lot of fear. So Isaac then interviewed lots of different groups. He asked the married people, does marriage make you happy? You have someone to share your life with, bring up the children, sort out the problems, get old with. Are you happy? And the married people said, no, most of the time we fight a lot and argue and disagree about things. And then he thought, well, maybe the single people have got a very happy life, always looking for a party, no responsibilities, can get up and go on long holidays. Maybe being single made you happy, but the single people said that they lived in fear of being left on the shelf and they were always looking for number one. The healthy people said that they took health for granted. And actually Isaac found that being, you know, less than able-bodied, being disabled, this group were actually much happier than the able-bodied group because they valued each day and they didn't know what the next day was going to bring. So after interviewing many groups, Isaac came to the conclusion that being wealthy, being beautiful, being healthy, married, single, intelligent, all these different groups he interviewed, there was no single characteristic that contributed to happiness. And by now, you may be wondering what it is he recommends that we should do to be happy. So I often think that some of my favourite movie stars, Elizabeth Taylor, singers, Elvis Presley, Amy Winehouse, Michael Jackson, these were people that had everything in terms of beauty and wealth, a world that loved them, talent. They had opportunities of every kind, and yet they destroyed themselves with chaotic lives and often, you know, with drugs. So being wealthy, being beautiful, being healthy even, did not help these people to be happy. And yet there are other groups. I think of the head of our organisation, Daddy Yankee, who just recently passed away at 104. She owned nothing in the world, just the clothes that she was wearing. Mother Teresa, Gandhi, you know, Nelson Mandela. And yet these people were deeply revered throughout the whole world. And their lives can be a very good lesson to us as to what makes us happy. Gandhi was once asked, before he addressed a crowd, he was asked, what is your message going to be to this huge gathering that was waiting for him? And he replied simply, my life is my message. And I think that's true of Daddy Yankee, Mother Teresa, Nelson Mandela, these great people that we revere with great respect and look up to. It's got nothing to do with having things, buying things, having power, status, looks, money. No. Much scientific research showed us that these things do not make us happy. So what really actually scientific research is showing us is that real happiness, a deep state of contentment, comes from within, something from within. And what is it that comes from within that helps us to have that deep state of contentment. I'd like to tell you, as by way of an example of what comes from within, is the story of two young men, and their different life's experiences. Do look it up on the internet. Aaron Ralston was 19 years old, and he was just an ordinary young man who liked to walk in the Australian outback. He liked to take off by himself and disappear for days, just walking and hiking and being in nature. One day he fell down a hole as he was walking, and when he looked up above him, he saw that it was quite easy to get out. The only problem was that his arm had become jammed between the cave wall and a rock, and after a few hours he realized that he was going to die in this place because he could not move his arm. And he had a mobile signal. He had a mobile phone, but no signal because of this rock all around him. So he decided that he was not going to die without a fight. So he leant on the side of the cave wall. He broke his arm, and with a penknife, he amputated that broken arm. And he actually took pictures of it, and they're on the internet. You can just type in Aaron Ralston, Google it, and you can see how he did it. And then when the arm was detached, he tied a tourniquet. He tied it beforehand, actually, climbed out of this cave, walked 7 kilometers and to get before he got help. And he became an international star in great demand overnight on talk shows all over the world. But I think this is a fine example of being an author of my own happiness. In a challenging situation, I can lie down and die. I can accept everything that is happening to me, or I can fight. Determination, courage, patience. What else do you need to get out of that situation? His youth, his future, his thoughts about his family, his passion for life, his determination not to die like a dog in silence where no one would ever find him again. Author of my own happiness. How do you think he felt having come out of his ordeal? The other person that made a great impression on me, now do look it up on Google, is Professor John All. He was a geological surveyor with a team in the Arctic doing an Arctic survey of some kind. And what happened is he wandered away from the campsite and he fell down a crack in the ice, and that crack closed over his head, and all he could see above him was a patch of blue sky, and he was about 70 meters below the ground, standing on a tiny shelf of ice. And again, he'd broken 7 ribs. He'd broken his nose. He was terribly injured. He'd broken his arm. He was terribly injured. And he realized that this ice shelf was not going to hold him forever, and that would plunge him to his death many hundreds of meters below him. So then he made that decision. He had a mobile phone. He took pictures of the sky, and they were really amazing pictures of his ice prison and that patch of freedom high up above him. So do go and Google it and see those pictures. It took him hours and hours, but slowly and surely and painfully, he crawled his way out of that ice grave. And when he arrived at the surface many hours later, he found himself alone in his tent, alone, and the others had disappeared, because obviously for miles around they could see nothing but ice, and they must have sent out helicopters to look for him, but could not find him. In his tent was a GPS device, and he sent out a signal onto a satellite, and it was a message. It was picked up by a friend of his in Hawaii, who then notified the authorities, and they sent out a helicopter and rescued him. And John All was asked what kept him going when he was facing death and pain, agony for so many hours. And John All replied that it was actually the thought of the authorities telling his mother that he had died and his body was nowhere to be found. And the thought of that, the effect of that on his mother, gave him the courage to dig himself out of a grave, basically. So, author of my own happiness, taking my destiny, facing death, and really not giving into that. So happiness comes from within. Every day I'm faced with so many choices, and I need to take control of my own destiny, use my time in a worthwhile way, have a goal for my day, have a goal for my life, and move towards it. I'd like to tell you a story of how they catch elephants in the Far East. You know, an elephant is the strongest animal in the world, and yet human beings, puny little human beings like us, have been able to capture them and turn them into our slaves. How does that happen? What they do is they get this poor animal, trap him, dart him so he falls down, and then they put a tire or a chain round one of its back legs, and the other end of the chain they put to a very strong stake. And when that animal wakes up, it's absolutely crazy, and it thrashes about for about 3 weeks. So the handlers stay far away from him and throw food at him, and very careful to give him water but not to get too close. And suddenly, after 3 weeks, a switch goes off in this poor beast's brain which says, give up, it's no good trying anymore, you know, that's it, freedom is gone, give up. And that's what that animal does. He suddenly gives up. When the handlers see that the animal has become calm and passive, they remove the chain and they replace it with a puny little rope, just to remind the animal that it's still tied up and the animal doesn't try to run away. Then they replace it with an even thinner rope and take that poor elephant into a life of hard labor where it stays until it dies. So this is what life is like for many of us. We feel trapped by our situations, by our circumstances, and we forget that a door that is closed today may be weaker tomorrow, and I need to kick that door down, to keep knocking on that door and try and make it open, and, you know, to, yes, do all my best to find solutions to challenges, find those solutions, and not to give up. Because next time you have a challenging, or if you've got a challenging situation going on, you could just say to yourself, oh, why is this happening to me? Oh, this shouldn't be happening to me, and see how you feel. Or you can say to yourself, I will find a solution, and see how much your spirits lift, a physical energizing off your body. So kick that door down. And the second little story I want to tell you is about not Aaron Ralston, I've told you that, about fleas. You know what they do in the flea circus? The handlers of the fleas keep them in a box for a few weeks and then open the box and all the sides fall away, and there are the fleas all arranged in a box shape. They learn that when they hit the sides of the box they get hurt, so they learn to jump so that they just are a millimetre away from the edges. Conditioning again, that we have been trained to think in a certain way, and we forget that when the barriers are released, you know, we are still conditioned that it's no good. No, we need to keep checking those barriers, kicking that door down, finding solutions and moving life forward. Is that right? So happiness actually comes from the inside, and what I'd like to do now is to just talk about how meditation can really help us to empower what's on the inside and also to bring it out. Meditation means to focus the mind, to see yourself as light here, to see yourself as peace, to really experience that peace. We are spiritual beings living a human life, and when I begin to experience myself as a spiritual being occupying this body, the mind starts to really slow down. And I find now that I can step back from situations and challenges and make informed decisions with my inner qualities. All of us actually have 8 amazing powers, and what we tend to do is, most of us, we tend to focus on one power. Do you know what it is? Someone says something that annoys me, I get angry. Someone does something that annoys me, I get angry. So our prisons are filled with people who have got angry, have lost control, who've committed crimes and hurt people. Just one moment's loss of control and they've ended up in prison or facing a death sentence, which is really a tragic situation. But when I do meditation, I see myself as light, I see myself as peace, I stay with that focus, then slowly my inner world begins to change, and I can bring that change, that stability, that concentration, that sense of well-being to my outer world and apply it to the situations going on in my life. So the 8 powers that we all have, and actually which we hardly use, I'm going to just summarize now. So one power is the power to face. You know, I've got challenging situations going on, so instead of dumping that on someone else or watching movies all night so I don't have to deal with that situation, with the power to face, I see that there can be no real peace of mind until I've dealt with it. And it means that I am facing a storm. I feel as if I can hardly bear it. But yes, I will look for solutions, I'll do my best, I'll pass through it, the power to face. Another power is the power to adjust. I want to do something, but it's just not working. So with the power to adjust, I find another way to get to my goal, you know. So one day the tube suddenly stopped halfway home, and everybody was asked to get off, no explanation. So I thought to myself, right, let me see, there were loads of buses passing by. I just got on a bus heading in the general direction of my home, and within about 10-15 minutes, jumping on 2 or 3 buses, got home really quickly. Power to adjust. Instead of moaning about why this happens, why can't people do their jobs properly, just adjust. The power to cooperate, giving a helping hand when really there's nothing in it for me. So we see now millions of people are giving a helping hand in this COVID crisis, delivering food, coming out of retirement from nursing and medicine, driving, going over to visit neighbours and relatives and do jobs. Giving a helping hand makes us very strong and very peaceful and increases our sense of well-being. So the power to discern, the power to judge, the power to discriminate. I've got a decision to make. With these 3 powers, I seek the truth in whatever decision I have to make. Is it going to hurt someone, exploit someone? Then I'm going to leave it alone. Is it going to uplift me? Is it going to uplift others? Then I can engage. With the power of truth, discernment, discrimination, judgment, I'll always make judgments, decisions based on integrity, on what is right and wrong. Another power is the power to pack up. Sometimes, and it's happened to me often, where I've struggled with situations going on and did not get the result that I wanted. But with a lot of love, I thought, well, that's it. I've taken it as far as I can now. And sorry about that. Let me now just move on. So with our powers, we can truly, you know, make ourselves very strong. The power to tolerate, another power. Someone is annoying me, playing loud music, behaving badly. We see it all the time, don't we? So instead of getting annoyed, can I just put up with it? My bus stop is coming close. I can shut the windows. Or if I can't tolerate it, can I engage with a lot of love and with a lot of respect, speak politely, ask for what I need politely, the power to tolerate. So when I'm using these powers, they actually bring a lot of their friends with them, and gradually I begin to feel great, actually, you know, because when I'm interacting with my world, my family, my friends and acquaintances with love and peace, I notice it in a huge amount of energy at the end of the day. And with this energy, I suddenly realize that so many things I'd like to try and do, which I never felt like trying and doing before. And so creativity gets a chance to blossom. So the practice of meditation starts to make my mind very strong and stable and peaceful internally, but really it brings with it so many other qualities. When I'm practicing my powers, they bring peace and love and happiness and strength and 100 other qualities that the Brahma Kumaris recognize we all have. You know, gentleness, patience, compassion, kindness, lightness, enthusiasm, perseverance. And when I'm using these qualities like a dancer dancing a beautiful dance all through my day, I experience the result of that as really for no reason, having suddenly a huge amount of energy. So yes, on the next level, meditation can be a connection with the Supreme Soul. When I'm tuning myself to as a point of light, tuning into myself, then actually I can find I can tune into the Supreme Soul, a brilliant point of energy high above the sky, and I immediately can absorb that energy. It reinforces all my powers and good qualities, and I can really, really have the willpower to do the things that I want to do. Brahma Kumaris teach meditation. So if you haven't done our course, it's the very best way to really learn about how life works. Actually, I've been teaching meditation now for the 30 years I've been associated with the Brahma Kumaris, and I've never met anybody that has disagreed with the teachings of the organization. I mean, there may be some things you may not particularly, feel attracted to, but the course will explain to you how life works. And if I know how life works, then I've got all the cards to make all the decisions, and success is guaranteed. And if success is guaranteed, then every day I can create my world. I can become truly the author of my own happiness. And not only that, but help others now to achieve a sense of well-being, achieve happiness through your interaction with them. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'm going to now speak a commentary which I've pre-recorded, and I'm going to send this out at the same time. See what happens. So close your eyes. Imagine you're standing on a beautiful beach. The sun is shining and the sky is blue. The beach is deserted. All around you, beauty fills your eyes. It's extremely silent, peaceful. You feel the sun on your skin. The water is silky, wonderful. So enter the water. Feel it come up to your knees, your tummy, up to your neck. Soon it is above your head. Your eyes are wide open. You feel so warm, so safe in this bath of silky water. And it seems now that your body has melted into the water, and with it all the cares of your life. All that is left is a tiny point of light suspended in crystal clear water, the ocean. You've become part of the ocean. You have a place in the ocean. You belong here, in this place of purity, cleanliness and peace. You become aware of a brilliant sunshine, a brilliant star above the ocean, reaching downwards towards you, and in silence, suspended, absorbing that energy. So lightly and easily, you find yourself drifting towards the shore, reconnecting with your body and emerging from the water, feeling completely refreshed, completely at peace with the self and with the world, with a deep understanding that this beach, this place of peace, is waiting for you within your mind anytime you wish to access it. Om Shanti. So thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Apologies, I thought I'd better speak that commentary rather than attach it on another file and so on and so on. But yes, warmest wishes to you and your family, and may great happiness be yours always. Thank you. Bye for now. Bye.